Same way you need to know a little bit about development so that you can kind of understand your developers, make the most out of them. Same thing for UX designers. No, our limitation isn't just to push pixels. Hold your design leadership accountable for educating the business on the value of UX. For UX designers, I think because with all the themed of the topics that we started this podcast with, it's that we feel this necessity to prove our value.
Yes.
So we are saying yes to everything that is coming our way without noticing that we're actually minimizing our value.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're doing the clap as well now, yeah? You're not going to keep that in, yeah? I'm going to definitely keep that bit in.
Look, whatever.
I love it. I love it. Welcome, everyone, to another Modus Operandi podcast with Miranda Slayter. And we are here again to answer some very provocative questions today. So are you ready, Miranda?
I am so ready.
Yeah?
Let's do it.
You brought your A game today, yeah?
I hope so.
All right, brilliant. Well, Miranda, I wanted to get your take on something, and it's something that I see a lot, especially with clients that we work with. And it's one of the questions, me and you kind of go backward and forward on great topics together. But I wanted to start off with this topic. From your opinion, and in your time being in this industry, do you think it's our responsibility to educate people what UX people can really do, other than just creating designs for the UI front? What's your take on this?
I think it really, I don't know how to start. I hate like the thing in my brain that always says, if I say it depends, then I'm immediately a UX designer. But a lot of the times it does depend. I think if you're a designer and you're going into, let's say, a startup or maybe like a mom and pop, you're just kind of doing like a local website for somebody, I think that you should have a very high expectation that they know they need a designer to do the visuals, but anything outside of that, they're not going to really have any idea what like a true UX designer, product designer can really bring to the table. So I think you can kind of just expect that a little bit of education around that. However, if you're going into, let's say, a Fortune 500, Fortune 100 company, I definitely some less expectation there. There should be a higher UX maturity within that space for you to be able to grow. Because I think a lot of designers maybe start out small and then they work their way up to bigger and bigger companies. And that's because it gives them more and more opportunities to grow. Because if I think about my days in agency life, it's like, yeah, clients would come to us. They'd need some pretty, designs put together. But if we wanted to do some usability testing or a little bit of surveying or something ahead of time to really validate some of the solutions, we'd have to sit there and tell them why. We'd really have to kind of run it down with them.
But this is it. I mean, I speak to a lot of people and they always tell me the same thing, where they're not being utilized in the right way. They're working in these large corporate organizations and they're only there. And, it's a reoccurring theme of, I'm just there to push out pixels, But then it comes down to the question, is it the fault on the people that hire them that really don't understand what UX is? Or do you think it's really down to, as you just mentioned, the maturity of UX within inside the business?
Yeah, I think it's such a tricky kind of balance in between, because I work at a huge company, right? And you go to pockets of the company and I don't have to explain anything. I'm invited to every single meeting, or maybe not me, I'm not a good example, but like designers are invited to every single meeting. and they get to be included early up in the process, get to really have a hand in where the product direction goes. And that's amazing. You literally just take 2 steps or go 2 floors up in another part of the business, and that designer is completely isolated, and is very like given very specific orders on like, hey, we need this, we need to deliver that. So I think like if we look at UX and people understanding UX from like the inception of it even being a thing, I think we've always kind of had this struggle and this challenge to push and educate people, especially as UX has expanded and grown, what we're capable of providing, what value we can actually bring. I think we're at the days now that like there should be a little onus on the other disciplines to really understand a bit more. I'm not saying all encompassing 110%, but a little bit educate yourselves on what the potential UX designer, especially when it comes to like product managers. It's like they're kind of seen as more of like the heads of the team or something like that. Same way you need to know a little bit about development so that you can kind of understand your developers, make the most out of them. Same thing for UX designers. No, our limitation isn't just to push pixels.
Yeah.
It is to do quite a bit more. So I don't know, use us better, right? Like,
but this is it. Why don't they? Oh, okay. Let me actually take it in a different question. Do you think organizations are losing out on not knowing what we can really do?
Oh my goodness, yes. Like massively. And that's where it's two-sided. I think a lot of designers look at it like, oh, they're keeping me, down, and they're just delivering, these kind of very specific things that maybe I don't even agree with. But on the flip side, exactly what you said, companies are underutilizing their talent massively. And I can't say that blanket across the board. I'm not out here to say like every designer can do an amazing job and bring all this incredible value. But I do think there's a lot of untapped potential there to look into the problem space better, look at the potential of a product direction a lot better, look at competitors through a particular lens, and all these kind of things that I think, companies are losing out on just because maybe they're, I don't know, either uneducated or unwilling to kind of tap into that with their UX designer. Because I feel like you could bring almost any problem to a UX designer. It doesn't have to be a design that they would deliver, but they would find a way to look into it, even if it was like, hey, I need this resource and that resource to be able to go dig into it further.
It's as you just mentioned, it's like you can utilize us on many, many different aspects, because and we're not just talking end users that we're selling products to.
Right. Yeah.
We're not utilized even internally how to make things better, even with our internal staff members and applications they use, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm gonna poke the bear with this one. Do you think UX people are even ready to take that step?
Yeah, I think there's an appetite for it. I do think a lot of this is like I was writing this somewhere, but like there's 2 glass ceilings that designers hit, and this is one of them. They don't know how to kind of branch out of this I deliver designs kind of mode, whether it's they want to or their stakeholders won't allow them to, or whatever the circumstance actually is. But so I definitely think there's a subset of designers who absolutely do want more challenge, right? Because some, like, we got into this to be creative, to utilize our visual talents and stuff like that. But you kind of, I think most designers like, okay, I'm good. Like I've done that part. Like we can't, especially once you hit the point where it's like, well, we can't add the animations and all these other all these other kind of more advanced visual skills, because that's impractical and it doesn't actually get implemented. So you reach this point where like, wow, I'm good enough. I'm very excellent at visual skills, design systems, all of that. Now what?
Yeah.
Unless you just want to continue to crank out for different sectors, like if you work for an agency, you own your business or whatever, you take that kind of path. But if you're going larger in companies, the impact you need to be having is more influential. And therefore it's solving the problem space. It's looking at the plans and the trajectory of the product and what users want and what adds business value. And there's just, if you add all those variables, it then becomes more interesting again. The problem isn't just a visual component or a page or whatever. It's so much bigger than that. So I definitely think there is appetite for designers to do that. But I think most designers, it takes a little while for them to get there. I think we really enjoy the visual side of things for quite some time. I mean, I know I did. But then when you start to dabble in a little bit of research, look at personas, look at journey map, all these other kind of tools, I think the job just becomes so much more interesting. And honestly, with all the things that are going on with the market and the industry, I think all those designers who are not ready better get ready because like those visual skills are not going to take you as far as they used to in isolation. It's really going to be your ability to problem solve pretty much anything that's thrown at you, and what assets are in your toolkit to do that, whether it's an internal workflow problem or it is user facing. So, yeah.
Miranda, I want to get your take on this. Do you think over the next year or over the next couple of years within this industry that people in this UX field are going to have to move more into a strategic element within inside the product rather than where they're positioned now of just execution?
Yeah, I think so. I think the fear of product managers being able to crank out simple designs or utilizing tools that can kind of do simple componentry or page layouts or whatever is real. Like, and if you think about it, the threat has been there well before any of this kind of like AI mania as well, right? We've had these design systems and they just continue to become more and more and more comprehensive. So as designers who work for large companies that already have these established design systems, you don't need to spend 2 weeks kind of exploring and iterating all these visual, elements. You probably need to create 10 iterations of one thing, throw them into some A/B testing and see what achieves the user need or the business goal or both together. So yeah, I think that aspect of our skill set is not going to be able to be the only thing you have. You will need to be able to kind of speak the business language, look at problems at a larger level, and be able to kind of influence those strategic decisions. I think the user advocacy part of our role is still going to remain extremely important because it's so easy for everybody to forget that side of things and to translate those user needs into business goals. But the way that you do that, whether it is through visuals or some other form of, maybe it's workshops, maybe it's through some research, maybe it's through whatever, prototyping, I don't know. The way that you kind of surface that to your stakeholders should be quite flexible and not only just dependent on, a page layout.
I want to take a stab at something before I move on with some more questions. You mentioned about design systems, and I've had to Noelle Lansford, who's she's a DPM or she's a design system expert. And I've asked and I've asked also Ben Callahan, who's also come on the show, the theory about design systems. And I want to get your take. Do you think since the introduction of design systems, we have lost the ability to be creative in our industry? And I'll give you my 2 cents before you answer that question.
Yeah, please.
Obviously, the design system methodology has been around for quite a while to not keep reinventing the wheel and reusing components and reusing design patterns. But in my experience, I have noticed that it has put a lot of rigidity on the designers to create something because it's like you've been given an instruction manual and all you have to do is really take out the parts, glue it together and done. And it doesn't breed creativity from my experience. Now, I can see you're nodding your head. I want to get your answer on this.
No, I 100% agree with you. There is a very strict rigidity and there's a good reason for it. I feel like there are definitely going to be designers who hate me for it, but design systems are extremely necessary, especially if you work in a large organization. Think of the Facebooks, the Amazons, the Google Suites, the whatever. You have potentially hundreds of designers. Do you think they're all going to just magically make a system look aligned?
Yeah.
Tell you right now, they won't, okay? Even when I was running a team of over 10 teams, it took us probably 8 months to sit there and go through all of our product screens and adopt our design system. And that was a massive effort. But did it make us look like a part of the whole? And was that incredibly valuable? Yes. So yeah, there is a rigidity. There is a huge constraint. And that's why, right? If you had total freedom, like I was just saying, if you had total freedom to explore on that homepage, that landing page, you could probably spend a week and a half really getting into like the visual, like elements of it, making it look incredibly like impactful and, designed. That's not what's needed, though. You have a design system that should probably take you maybe a few days to do. The efficiency is there. It needs to look like a part of the whole that have other designers, other teams, etc. looking. There is a time and a place for that true design essence. And I don't think those kind of products are going to go completely to the wayside, but it's already niche. If you see the websites, like maybe where a large company wants to do something just for the sake of design, not for the sake of problem solving, for the sake of marketing or something else where kind of that true design doesn't even have to really be all that functional or usable, but it's beautiful and people are intrigued by that. There's a time and a place for that, but I think there'll be a very dedicated subset of designers who get to work on those things more so, but the vast majority of designers will be working on more utilitarian designs that need to solve a problem, that achieve a business goal. And that's just the reality. If you want to try and go for that niche, or even if you just want to like keep your creativity with side projects, which a lot of us do, right? Because it's like, I'm so constrained. I need an outlet. I'll put it in my portfolio. All the best to you, but no doubt, no question, those jobs are few and far between. The mass jobs are going to be with the big tech companies that want to make money.
Yeah. I would love our audience to pop in some comments like, are you experiencing this rigidity with design systems? Would love to hear your experience. So please pop in some comments into the channel, into the video.
Yeah. Do you hate design systems?
Exactly. We would love to hear your feedback. Yeah, I think it'd be really, really interesting to see what people are thinking out there, because I think there's so much hype in design systems and they make such a big thing about it, but it cuts down that creativity. Yes, it builds for optimization, but you're losing a lot from designers.
I think it's really, just on that note, I think it's really important for not only designers, and I would say probably designers in more of like a leading position, but also anybody within the company. It's like your design system also isn't the end all be all, right? You should never not re-look at your design system to see if it's serving the actual purpose. I know, at least because I do mostly discovery work. I do future-facing work 3 to 5 years. So the design system we have today ain't going to be what we have in 3 to 5 years. So I am always detaching those components, breaking things apart, doing that kind of stuff, because it's a bit more greenfield. But it's also to really test where the design system still serves up to, and especially like our atoms and elements and stuff, and where it doesn't, where we need to incorporate more personality, where maybe our tone of voice and our content needs to change because that's where we're seeing our competitors do, or whatever. So it's not that it is a finite, fixed truth. It should be held to the same rigor as, anything else we design. It should be tested. It should be challenged. So if you're a design systems person out there, and you're like, it has to be this way, it's like, you need to be open to be challenged as well.
Yeah, exactly. I want to circle back on our initial discussion around educating the business. And I want to get your take on this. Is it our job to educate our main stakeholder, the product manager that you're working with? And I'm going to take it in a different way. Should it be the case that we should educate or we should take responsibility? Now, if you need some context onto that question, is it the job of a product manager to tell us this is how the experience should be? Or should it be the responsibility of designers to say, no, we are the experts in this field. Go with our suggestion rather than dictate to us how things should be. What's your take on that?
Yeah, unquestionably, a good PM will come to you with a problem, not a solution. They'll come to you with their insight, their opinion, their thoughts, their educated guess, maybe.
Yeah.
But they will not come to you with a solution. That is the fundamental aspect of a good PM. What are you going to say?
Miranda, how many people have you spoken to in your mentorship who have said a PM comes to them with a problem rather than a solution? I wanted to get your take on that, because my LinkedIn is just pinged full of people saying, how do I convince my product manager that I am responsible for the UX, that I am responsible? And I always tell them that don't go with the attitude that you own everything. Go with the attitude that you do have that knowledge and you do have that experience, and try to influence rather than educate. And I use the word influence rather than educate a lot with the people who ping me. Yeah, going back to your
because they're not do you think it's because they're not uneducated, or why do you choose to use the word influence over educate?
I think when I use the word educate, it's like saying, you're like teaching them, oh, this is what we do. This is what a UX person can do. Like, this is what an information architecture can do. And it's like falling on deaf ears with that type of speak. And I find if you influence, it's more the case that we have spoken to 10 people, or we have researched and had findings that have shown that this information architecture or this way that this application is structured could be better. And you can see those two sentences are completely different, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, this is what information architecture is and this is what it does, rather than, hey, by doing this, you could find out this result. And by learning this, we can learn this about the user. And that's why I always use the word influence.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially if you're in the scenario where somebody's come to you with a solution and you need to absolutely rip it apart. You need to be like, well, that's not going to work for these reasons. But I think, to me, it's a little bit of like, if you are influencing in that way, you're showing your knowledge and therefore educating what you can do. And it's not just the visuals. It's not just painting a pretty picture on kind of the side of it. I think there's a couple ways that this can be approached if you're a designer like really feeling stuck and your product folks aren't listening to you.
Yeah.
And you can sit there, and every single time they come to you with a solution, you can say, you can deliver it. That's the first option. You can just do it. Like that. If you're coasting along, whatever, you're hurting all of us, by the way. You're setting a horrible expectation for all other designers. But like, live your life, Then the next one is that every single time they come to you with a solution, you actually openly question it. What made you think this? What is influencing this? And really understand their solution. Before you do anything, don't make your recommend, don't influence, don't anything. Go away and come back with the influence, with the knowledge, with the insights, with the research. And then kind of talk about both. It's not, and also don't jump to the conclusion they're absolutely wrong. They're also educated people.
Yes.
So I think it's easy to be like, you're telling me what to do, but you're not going to get anywhere if you fight, I guess.
Yeah.
You have to kind of approach it very much through an understanding point of view. But I also think that there's an educational piece as well. Once you gain a little bit of traction and you see that they're hearing you out a little bit about options that you're bringing to the table, rationale that you're bringing to the table, it's like, well, I could do my job a lot better if you brought me in earlier in the process, right?
Okay.
And try to it's kind of a slow gain, especially, and I'm really thinking about that like PM to designer level, individual team level. And it's a bit of a slow burn, but it's like you can help me to help you.
Yeah.
If you bring me in early, it's going to help me understand the problem better. It's going to be able to allow me to shape this better. It's going to give you a better solution at the end of the day. I think the big thing that designers get, the biggest rap from engineers and PMs is that, one, we challenge everything. So annoying about it. But two is that we blow up the timelines. They want to crank something out tomorrow, and we're like, hold up.
Yeah.
What about these 10 things you didn't consider? Hello. And they're like, well, we don't have time. It's just like this pressure. We have to do it now. And you're like, well, okay, fine. I guess I'll just do it. But like even the little gains. So pick those little gains that you can spit out in the extra 30 minutes, hour that you actually have on the task, and try to kind of like start to slowly alter their mind to prove that value with every single kind of task that they give to you. Once you get to the point of kind of gaining a little bit more of that confidence, then try to get involved more earlier in the process, earlier conversations, establish that kind of influential piece, because the biggest thing you can't do is influence if you don't have the information. If you're left out of the conversations, you don't have the context. A lot of times you'll try to influence like, well, we already thought about that. And we already thought about this. And we've already had 20 conversations without you.
Yeah. No,
like,
but I
cool.
mean, that's
cool.
we are the disruptors. We are the
100%.
disruptors of the industry. That is what UX people are looked at. We disrupt everything in ways of working. You know, that's why I find that the maturity level in companies is really slow for UX due to the fact that they're used to a way of working. And as you just mentioned, we got to get this idea out tomorrow, and we're coming in and say, no, did you think about this? And they're like, hey, you know, we've been doing it like this for God knows how long, and you've come in and disrupted us. And I tell everyone, we are considered the disruptors of the industry. We are there to challenge everything, but at the same time, we're challenging things on the right level because of the things we've learned, you know, from practice and theory, isn't it?
Do you want a good solution, or do you want a fast solution?
Exactly. It always comes down to, do you want something that's just going to give you a quick win, or are you in it for the long run to make money, you know, as a continuous thing? So that's why there's this, there's always this tug and pull on quick wins over long gains, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, and to be completely fair with a lot of PMs, the reward model for most companies are set up to do exactly that. It's not necessarily that they're like bad people or they're like completely in the wrong, but like they're rewarded based off of those wins, those incremental wins a lot of the time. Like if we're looking at the real problem, it's systematic. It's not on an individual level. So if a company is sitting there rewarding somebody for making incremental wins every single quarter, what do you think they're going to do? They're not worried about 12 months from now, 16 months, 18 months from now, whatever. I'll worry about that then. No, I have 3 months and however many sprints that equals, and I need to make a certain number.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, there is a systematic problem in the way that people reward the PMs, the leads of the teams, the people who are accountable. I think, especially from a lot of my experience, you have to dedicate a certain percentage of whatever task, of whatever thing, to a long-term gain, lifetime value, retention, like whatever the longer-term metrics are, and balance that with the shorter-term metrics. Otherwise, yeah, you're a lot of times it just equals creating debt, bad solutions that end up getting reworked in 6 months' time because it wasn't really thought through very well. It's not scalable, etc. And actually, like if we could even quantify it, which it's incredibly hard to do, and that why it continues to be this way forever. But if we could, I would bet my bottom dollar that companies are wasting a lot more money reworking, getting rid of that debt that they've accumulated over all this optimization, incremental experiment, work, I bet you it's costing them more money in the long term than it is actually winning them more gains.
It's an interesting one. Again, I would love to hear some comments in this podcast to see, like,
That's a pretty high level topic, but
I would, very, very, like,
especially PMs. Like, if any PMs listen to this, like, I would love to hear a perspective from a PM about that.
Yeah, definitely, because we always see it from, I'll play devil's advocate with this comment I'm gonna state. I think a lot of people in this industry, or in the design industry, are always we're always there to make things better, the experience. But one of the key things is, how can you show business value just by making the UI look pretty, or updating the UI to be modern? And a lot of designers come in and say, oh, this interface is outdated. It's not looking good. How can we design in this legacy type of platform? And it's then saying, well, then how can you show return of investment based on updating the UI to be modern? Do you know what I mean?
Oh my God, incredibly difficult.
Right.
That is an incredibly difficult challenge to quantify exactly what you said. It's like everybody kind of feels like we should, or like we shouldn't have a broken experience, but like how do we really put a number on a business value to it?
Yeah.
I think that's just something. I don't even have like a succinct like answer to that. Something that we're doing in my company now is looking across particular like our primary user journeys and looking for the UX issues, because the thing is, we will straight up get a message from a C-suite member being, I did this thing with our product and it was bad, and how is this acceptable? Like an email, like they're mad.
Okay.
Like to the UX people though, not the engineering teams, whatever. Like it'll be like, hey UX, I did this thing with our product and this was a bad time. And we're like, we've talked about that for 2 years. We know about it. Nobody's prioritizing it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not unaware of these issues. There's a lot of them. The priorities don't allow for working on them, for fixing the bugs, for doing a harder core QA.
But then it comes down to the question, like, and I'll ask you, what do you experience currently in your company? Do UX people, from your perspective in your company that you work with, get brought into BRM meetings or, PR planning? Are they actually involved, or are they just a subset of ideas that are getting pushed into a PRD meeting, or what I mean by quarter releases, big room meetings where they're going to say, oh, this is what we're doing for the next 3 months.
The annual planning.
Yeah, the annual planning. Yeah. Let me ask you, in your current company, are they brought in as people who contribute to the ideas that are getting pushed in, or are they just there to know, these are the ideas and features that we are going to be working on in the next 3 months?
I would say, if I had to put a number against it, I'd probably say 20% of some of our, like, because we have so many levels, right? So I'm trying to think of all the different levels. But if like on an individual level, if you have like a senior designer, I'd say there's maybe a 20 to 25% chance that they're included in the planning discussions across the business. Lead designers, probably about the same. As it goes up though, as we get to like director, VP level, stuff like that, I would say there is a lot more top down happening. So it's like, hey, these are the kind of themes and sub things that are going on, and here's what the individual product folks are proposing. And then maybe like some of the more top level UX folks kind of get to have a little bit of a say in that, but not the inception of the say. You know what I mean?
They're allowed to give their feedback, but not actually say, is this a great idea? Does this bring value?
Yeah, exactly.
There's been no RICE examination or impact on the feature. It's just like, this is what we got to do. And they give their 2 cents of feedback.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I would say that's, but also, okay, if I have to try to quantify it, there's probably one design leader to every 8 to 10 product leaders.
Wow. Okay.
So that has a lot to do with it. When you kind of
Wow.
have a UX leader branching over such a large scope, but then you have a product leader kind of very focused on a scope. Yeah, that product leader is going to even know the problem space a lot better. They're going to come up with a proposal, and then, a UX leader is then maybe going to have a bit of say on 2 or 3 topics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the way it's currently working. However, in the individual teams or maybe like departments, I've definitely personally helped a lot of our lead designers get a seat at the table on like a department level, and that's been working incredibly well. And the designers who can hold their stance are doing it and doing it well, and it's benefiting significantly. But that's not a universal thing across the company. Definitely. Yeah.
Enjoying the content? Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram for more updates. Your support helps us bring you even more great content. Now let's get back to our podcast.
The reason why I bring this up about being involved or kind of like, giving their 2 cents about like, is it the right feature to use? Many of us have worked with stakeholders who are just adamant in their idea, where they're kind of just like steadfast, they're not backing down. My best example, and I'm glad we went back and forth with that one. My best department I love working with, and it's one of the favorite departments I always have a lot of fun in my career, is marketing. Because, UX is looked at as the disruptors, and I look at marketing, they're on another planet completely.
Totally.
They are completely on another planet. And like you said, they know more than me. I've always given them the freedom to kind of express why their ideas should be done. And I'm glad that you brought this one up. What do you do when you work with those type of stakeholders who are just steadfast and have that SME knowledge? They're the subject matter experts in marketing, but you have that knowledge that their idea doesn't work. And what's your 2 cents? How would you advise people to go about this?
There's a few different levels to it. I would say if you, like you said, if you know their idea is bad or their thing won't work, and you have something to back that more than you just think it, because sometimes I got to caveat this. I feel like some designers are like, because I'm the designer, you have to listen to me. So I'm not advocating that anybody listens to those designers, by the way. That is not good enough. Okay. If you have the backing, you have the rationale, chef's kiss, amazing, great. But you do not get to just be the designer and then everybody listens to you, like full stop. So I just have to, that has to be there. Otherwise I don't want it to come off a different way.
I want to put my 2 cents into that. If you do come across people that work with like that, they are not the right people to work with, because a good designer listens and doesn't take the stance that I own this is mine. You should relate to them saying they'd have that knowledge. But if they say, no, I'm not going to do anything, this is my baby, I'm going to work how I want to work, don't work with those designers.
Don't work with those people. Run for the hills.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do not learn from them. Yeah, totally. Okay, but back to your question. So if, they came in and they're like, this is what we want to do. And you're like, woo, okay, definitely challenge. So challenge best. Again, don't do it immediately. Go back, get the rationale, research, whatever you need. Do a little bit of usability testing, whatever the thing calls for, to kind of come back to them. Of course, timeline constraints, we know all the things, whatever. But if you can do it in the moment, also amazing, super good. Now, you're getting nowhere. Let's say you've tried, maybe a couple of times, a couple of different ways, hard pressed, nobody's listening to you. If you're in a company where there's higher design leadership, go to them. I always advocate for my designers in the company that I'm working for. I'm like, if you are facing this, come to me and let me be your backup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, please. And genuinely sometimes it might be just because of the title. Like if you work, especially if like a financial sector or a little bit of a legacy sector, sometimes titles matter. I think it's ridiculous, stupid, whatever, but maybe that's all they need. you know?
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. But also maybe it's just my experience, the way I communicate, different contexts that I can bring in to help you back, like the reason your idea makes sense and theirs not so much. So that's the first thing I would do. If then you are really getting absolutely nowhere, you really need to then evaluate the situation. If you have exhausted all options, do not burn yourself out on it. There are inevitably stakeholders who will not budge. They have an idea. It will be executed exactly as they want it because they run it. They have the power to do so. So you should always be taking that step. Try your best. See if there's movement. See if there's somebody's open to listening to you. But if you are hitting a brick wall, do not waste your time. It is their loss. They'll probably learn it in the long run, or they won't. It doesn't matter. But we are not, as designers, supposed to just continue to drag ourselves through the mud for what value really at the end of the day, like bigger picture stuff. And if you're working in a startup, because startups are notorious for this, when you have like a founder who just like wants his stuff the way that he wants his stuff, get out. You're not going to grow in that space. Like as a designer, you are not going to grow in that space. And there are people who do value designers who understand and will listen when you have an idea. You will not grow in a space where you hit a brick wall with somebody consistently just because they have their mind fixed. They are unwilling and unopen.
Yeah. You see, it comes down to, and it's a hard one. I'll take my two cents on that question. I think a lot of designers come in to try and change the world very, very quick. As a designer, you do that. Your job is to change things, make things better. You've got that experience. But I find that a lot of designers come in like cowboys, like guns waving, like, okay, I'm going to come change, blah, blah, blah. And I always tell a lot of people who kind of like, who I've worked with and who I've mentored, build trust first. The first thing is to build trust. And, once they have seen you build that trust and experience, that's when you have a leg to stand on to kind of push back in that sense. If you've come in guns blazing, you're never going to get that that open ear to listen to your feedback, because you've come in with this gun-ho attitude. I'm sorry to use that terminology. It's just something we use in UK. It's just, but you've come in with a gun-ho mentality and expecting everyone to listen. As you just mentioned, I'm the designer. You should listen to me. It's not going to happen. So, my 2 cents to anyone listening to this podcast and listen to the subject we just mentioned, build trust. That is the first fundamental thing. Build trust with your peers, with people that work with. And then once you've got that, then it's the point of negotiating backward and forward.
I could not agree more. Yeah. Amazing point. It's so true. It is exactly what we were talking about, right? Just because you're the designer literally doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You could be, because they have no idea what value you can bring as an individual. If you're just coming into a team, you could be the best designer in the world. You could be the worst designer in the world. They have no idea.
Yeah.
They
Absolutely.
need to keep working.
Yeah.
So what would be your number one first tactic in building trust if you're just joining a team?
I guess one of the key things I've always said to people, when I've kind of done this in my career, I spend time with them, just work with them, work on a few things, give a few feedback, ask them, do they need me for any help? Is there anything I can help with? So you can kind of, you go kind of like the arm's length don't keep people at arm's length, but you go above the arm's length to try and see if you can help. And they kind of see that, oh yeah, you're committing to helping them, even though you've got tons of work. And that shows great intuitiveness in some sense. Also spending time with them, like lunch breaks, like before we were all remote, lunch breaks and getting to know them personally, because, you know, they're not the marketing person, they're not the product manager, they're actually real humans behind. So getting to know that, and that's what I would say, get to know them personally, you know, and just build that relationship that just gives them that confidence that they can speak to you or come to you. And, you know, I always build confidence in people to say, hey, come to me if you've got anything that you want to say, or if you've got a stupid idea that you don't want people to know about, or you don't want to look stupid in front of people, just come to me, I'll give you the answer. And so that builds that sort of trust. So that would be my answer to that. But I want to give a caveat to that. And that goes to everyone in any relationship, whether it's a personal relationship, a love relationship, your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your, well, dogs, this is different, but you got to have boundaries. You know, there are, in any relationship, no matter what it is, you have to have boundaries. When you're, you know, speak up for yourself and say no, you know. And I think that's one thing with that I teach people that I mentor or that I've had in my team. You should have boundaries, and that comes with, you know, learning in the job, or just learning in general. So make sure that when you do build these relationships with people at work, that they don't overstep their boundaries with you. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my God. So I had so many thoughts as you were saying all that, but that one particularly, I don't know what it is about designers specifically, or is it just designers that I've run into in my career? Like notoriously yes men. Like, yes, I will do everything. Like, until you burn yourself into the oblivion. When I first joined at this company that I'm working at, I got partnered up with this designer. And dude was working till like 8 in the evenings. And over here, we don't get overtime. Okay. So like, what are you doing? But like 8 in the evenings, he was taking on every single request that came in. No boundaries, just like, oh my gosh. And I feel like, he just looked just so depleted. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, that is not, and actually, if I could just add to that, you are actually not only doing yourself a disservice, but you are in no way, shape, or form educating anybody around you that design does anything more than just factory outputs.
Yes.
Stuff. And honestly, you're never doing your best work if you're in that situation. So you are kind of doing a disservice to both sides. It's you're actually harming what gets output and not giving people the kind of education or boundaries that they need to understand what it really requires to make a good solution. And then of course you're literally burning yourself into the ground. So something about it is just we just want to say yes to everything.
It's I use the terminology people please. You know, it's something I tell my daughter, like with, you know, I try and teach her, don't people please, you know, be very sturdy and speak up for yourself, especially if she's a girl, you know, she's my daughter. I don't want her to please people. You need to stand up for what you believe in. And it's something I'm very strong at her, always, you know, day in, day out with her. And it comes down to people in this job. You know, I understand in the beginning you want to people please. I get that. But take the initiative to say no. It's hard at first, but take the initiative to learn to say no.
You know what just came to mind? What I think it is. And I think it's probably just like side note on the women thing. It's because like we need that like validation, right? Like the society says we need the validation, whatever. Gross. But for UX designers, I think because with all the theme to the topics that we started this podcast with, it's that we feel this necessity to prove our value.
Yes.
So we are saying yes to everything that is coming our way without noticing that we're actually minimizing our value. Because we were just delivering and cranking stuff out and it's kind of half-baked and you know, whatever. So we're just saying yes to everything. But in reality, if we actually set those boundaries and we say, no, this requires more work. No, this needs more intention and thought. Here's why. Of course, always with the why. that is actually proving our value, not just doing as much as humanly possible. So I think that's, if I had to put a bet on it, I think that's the inception of it. It's that we have this necessity to kind of prove our value, and the most kind of innate way to do that is just do more work.
Oh, I love it. You know, we can speak like a whole podcast about this one. I'm going to bring that up in the next one. But again, drop your comments in if anything has resonated with you, and
Please.
you any of the topics we have mentioned, especially what we just mentioned a second ago about validation, about people pleasing. Drop your comments in. Let us know.
Have you navigated those circumstances, or do you feel like you're in that circumstance right now?
Yes. Yeah, please pop them in, and me and Miranda will definitely answer back and try and help you as much as we can. And I love the one.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I know you're wrapping it up, so I just have like a burning thing I want to say.
You go for it.
I want to circle back because it's been burning in the back of my mind, and we keep talking about this kind of like value. On the team individual level, is it the requirement of the designer to showcase the value to the PM? But anybody who's working in a large company, and I'm saying this as a design leader, like very close to the top, hold your design leadership accountable for educating the business on the value of UX. It is not on the shoulders of the individual designers in every single individual team. You should be holding your management, more specifically, your managers, your senior managers, your directors, etc. If they're like, I don't see you educating your teams, and it's like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing about it? Because this is a systematic thing. My engineers aren't required to listen to me. My PMs are cranking out their numbers. What are you doing about it? So like, I just want to put that out there that there's often, especially in large companies, it is not always on the individual shoulders. And if you are an individual designer and you are just distraught and struggling and you are not getting anywhere with your PM and engineers, there's a good bet that it's actually stemming from something well above your pay grade or your level. And it has nothing to do with how good of a designer you are. So like, if you can challenge your design leaders, ask them questions. What are they doing? Look at your design community objectives, see if there's anything in there. Because if they're asking it of you, you should be asking it right back at them.
100%. 100%. Oh, wow. Love that.
Sorry, I had to get that out there.
I love it. I'm going to chop that bit up and just post it around social media, because you are absolutely right. That's the job of design leaders. That's the job of design directors. That's what they're hired to do. And I've seen a lot fail in that process, because it takes people
it's not easy. I'm not by any means. It's not saying it's easy for any level of leadership.
Yeah,
but
it is. It's a massive challenge, and people don't. I've been in that role myself, and it's really the case that you can't expect things to be changed overnight, and that's the problem. People that have gone into those types of roles have expected things to happen. Oh, next week is going to be different. It's like, no, you're going to keep having the same issue again and again and again until finally they realize. And I kept saying to one of my colleagues, it's like a baby. When they learn, they don't fail and then, oh no, it's done, I'm not going to do it again.
Right.
They keep doing it again and again and
keep
again.
Touching the hot plate. Keep touching that hot plate.
Yeah, they keep touching it. Honestly, my little one, he's crazy. He is absolutely crazy. But yeah, you got to keep doing it. Consistency is key in those types of roles. You got to be consistent, and I'm going to have a good podcast video on this one. I think
let's do it.
Yeah, let's do that one. But,
love it. Expectations of design leadership.
yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a brilliant show. So, Miranda, I can't thank you enough for always coming on to the show. With
always
your level
time.
of knowledge. Yeah, man. It blows me away every time you come on the show, because the level of knowledge that you have just keeps, I've only just scratched the surface with you. So there's loads there. Yeah, I'm gonna get it all out.
It just takes someone like you. I was just gonna say, it takes someone like you to get it out. I can't do it on my own.
Miranda, what's in line for you for the next couple of weeks and months? Because by the time we get you back in the show, probably be in March. So what's in line for the UX Survivor Guide?
Oh man, actually, so yeah, by the time this will come out, but I think there'll be some recordings and stuff like that. I'm actually doing a lightning talk with Femke. And I'm sure a lot of people who watch this will know who Femke is, but we're talking all about how to demonstrate your value and how to talk about how to have more influence on the product direction. I think right now we almost have 500 students signed up to watch it. So I think we'll be recording though. So by the time this comes out, go check it out. Definitely.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm writing some really cool articles about my whole process in crafting the product vision for the company that I work at and how that shifted and changed kind of the direction of the company. But there was a massive, huge, intense process that went behind that. So I'm starting to share a little bit more on what that looks like. And I'm super excited to be doing that. And also, I've completely changed the format of my newsletter and people are loving it. It's more of a guided approach to tackling some of the problems. It's how to demonstrate your value, how to manage difficult stakeholders, how to present the value of research, and really practical, tangible things that you could start to incorporate like into your day to day. So, and it seems to be going really well. So yeah, I'm super excited about it.
Oh, nice. Well, we need to put your links to everything that you just mentioned always in the show notes of the podcast. Yeah. Again, comment in the show notes because this episodes with Miranda are already being shown on YouTube. So please comment on the show notes.
Comment. We'll be in there. We'll be replying.
Yeah, we'll be replying.
What do you want us to talk about? What do you want us to cover?
Yeah.
We need more topics in our spreadsheet.
Yeah, exactly. That we don't want to give away the secrets of the spreadsheet.
Oh, well, I'm not telling. Oh no, designers doing spreadsheets. Oh no, we're gonna be roasted.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Miranda, always a pleasure, and we'll see you again next month.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Naz. Can't wait.